welcome to the Terrible 2 podcast. This is our first ever episode, and we are so excited to be here. I'm Lonnie.
I'm Teddy.
And we are going to be speaking about questions. Well, no, we're giving unwanted advice. Sorry, here I was thinking you guys actually asked for this. You didn't. We're giving unasked for advice. We're giving unwanted conversation starters, but this is just to help you in your relationship and maybe give you guys a little bit of, I don't know, what is the word, babe?
Je ne sais quoi.
Like inspiration, okay, on different things that you can talk about in your relationship. So just this first episode, we're actually going to get into the nitty-gritty on how we're going to run this podcast and what we're basically speaking about in this podcast, right? First, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
First question of the podcast series ever, guys. We're so excited. Is actually, babe, we're gonna ask, what do you think? Like, when do you think the time frame of a relationship? How do I ask that? When do you think in a relationship people start like losing conversation? Like, oh, I don't know what to say. I know this person so well, and I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what kind of conversations to have with them and stuff like that. And you kind of like are at the dinner table just like, how was your day? Like stuff like that. When do you think that is, and why do you think that is?
That's a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on a lot of things, but a big one is how much do you have in common?
Mm-hmm.
And it may not go the way you think. I think the more you have in common, the easier it is to feel bored, possibly. Because, okay, we've spoken about this, or we watched it. And if you're together, you spend a lot of time together. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're into an anime or you're into Marvel, DC, whatever. You probably watch the movies together. Mm-hmm. So now there's nothing to talk about, and I think, the honeymoon phase and the blah, blah, blah. And I think maybe a year and a half is like a really long time. I think an average would be about like 9 months. Like, oh, we have so much in common. We spent so much time together. Cool. And then you're like, wait, what else is there? And I think between like 9 months to a year and a half is when thoughts start creeping in. Like, oh, this is boring. Oh, this is regular at this point. I'm tired of seeing it. And that's when you have to really put in the effort to get past that roadblock and that hump. I think when people have less in common, there's more things that they don't know about each other or that they don't have in common that they can come to each other and be like, oh, I went fishing one time. Oh, how did that go? What was that about? Oh, I traveled to where. And it's like, oh, wow, how did that go? And then they can take the person to their interest and be like, how was it? Have a conversation about that. And I'm just not saying find somebody that's completely and utterly different than you, but it's always, in my opinion, beneficial to have some differences, because having somebody that's into cars or into makeup or into Marvel and I think the benefit early on of having similar interests becomes a detriment towards that time period, because it's like, okay, we've said and we've done this in a 9 month period. I guess it's hundreds of times. What next? Mm-hmm. What next? Like, what else is there? Is this every day? Mm-hmm. So I think 9 months to a year and a half. 9 months to a year and a half. So I guess that's what, 12, 18 months. So 9 to 18 months is where a lot of relationships get regular. And that's where the roadblock or the hump or the whatever is that you need to push through to get to the rest of the relationship.
Yeah, I agree. So before I get to like my beliefs on where I stand, I did have a question. So what do you think is the best course of action for people who have the same interest and maybe like they live together and they hit that year or even they hit that 2 year, and so like they do everything together, they have similar interests? What do you think is the best course of action to create conversation and stuff like that in everyday life?
I think it comes down to communication, making sure you check in with your partner, be open about what you're feeling, because they might be feeling the same thing too, and like the next step would be trying out new things either individually or together, so that you can come back and be like, oh my god, this is what I did. Do you want to come do it with me? Or how was it for you? How was it for me? And this is how it went. So I think always communication is, like, as cliche as it sounds, the most important thing, because if you're uncomfortable or you're tired or you're bored, don't just say I'm tired, I'm bored, I'm come to the person and be like, hey, a lot of things have been happening. I'm wondering if there's a way to spice it up or be more in tune with each other. And so that's what communication, and then trying new things. But third point is be okay with the regular. Because if you plan on spending 10, 20, 30, 40 years with a person, regular is not bad. Like, having a routine will never be a bad thing. Being comfortable in your space and with your person will never be a bad thing. So I think those three things can really get you over that hump where you're like, I'm not bored, I'm happy. And I think a lot of people I think a lot of people mistake bored with content. Like, I'm content in myself, I'm content in my space, I'm having a good time. Because I think people, lots of generalizations here, but I think some people, sometimes myself included, think that happiness has to be excitement. Has to be fresh, new, explosive, when happiness can be content. I'm content in my space, I'm good. That's just my thoughts. What about you?
Oh my gosh. No, you said exactly what I was thinking. I do think that a good time that starts happening, or at least for me on my end, is maybe at that year to 2 year mark. Because I feel like throughout the entire year, I'm getting to know this person. I'm finding everything about you. I feel like even in a year, I haven't fully delved into the person that you are. And so it comes to like that year and a half, that 2 year mark, where I start actually like sitting there and I'm like, okay, I know his favorite color, I know his favorite band, I know his favorite music, I know, like, what else do we talk about? And I think like that's when it starts that point of like, I'm scared. And I think what you were saying with that content and being bored and stuff like that, I think that takes a toll on so many people in relationships, because it's like, once you hit that mark, that bubble phase is popped, you've found out everything, it's hard to communicate and stuff like that. You're sitting at that table in, I don't know, Olive Garden and you're both on your phones because you don't actually know what to talk about. And so you bring up topics that you see on Instagram, you're scrolling and you're like, oh, what do you think about this, and so I think in those moments, I completely agree, like, with the different interests, right? But for the people with the same interest, I feel as though that could work too. Like, you can have, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about things that you enjoy in life, but it could be things about things that you don't enjoy in life, like things that are uncomfortable in this world or make you think. Just talk about things that create room for communication. So asking like how your day goes or how your day went, it's cute and it's nice, but at the same time it has an abrupt end. So it's like, my day was like this and blah blah blah, and then now you're done. So asking like, hey, so I heard this the other day on this blah 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 about this person, and how do you think, like, what do you think about that, what are your thoughts about that, and stuff like that. And so I think those are like the best course of action for that. But going back to the bored and content, I think that's so big, that's something that we need to speak about on just people in general and relationships, is that boredom or contentment and in like, I don't know, like calmness. I think that's what it is. It's a sense of like peace with your partner. And I think we got to that point where we were just like so just you like I don't know how to even express it, but we were so alike Like there was times where we would end up saying the exact same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, so it came to that point of just like mellow. Like there was no arguments, there was no nothing. It was just like peace, and it kind of felt boring.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of the times when you get to that place and you're like peace, I don't want to generalize this for everybody, but I think a lot of people come from spaces in past relationships where arguments and chaos meant excitement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like a biggest thing that we need to do is mature and realize that peace does not mean bored or boredom. It doesn't mean that your relationship is lacking. It just really means that your relationship has come to a space where you are so content with this person and so at peace with this person that honestly for me that there's nothing that you can do to even like break that up, you know? And instead of taking the route of, oh no, our relationship has gone stale like bread, we can look at it as like, okay, our relationship has mellowed out. How do I introduce new things?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is like when you are at that peace stage, you don't have anything new. You don't have anything new to talk about. You don't have anything new to bring up. Your person knows you at the back of their hand. So it got to the point where I knew your daily schedule. So I knew what you were doing at certain points in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to talk about like, oh, how's your day going? Because the majority of the time I know how your day went. So it's definitely a thing of, getting out of that mindset of boredom and getting into that space of we're at peace, but how do we add just a little bit of new to the relationship? And I think that would like blossom in conversations and communication, because the more you add into a relationship, the more you're able to talk about. And even I feel like when we started, I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when we started just random conversations, I started figuring out pieces of you 3 years into our relationship that I thought I knew in the year, and then I'm like, whoa, you're like that. And so I feel like that was a big thing. Like, did that happen for you, or?
No, I agree with you on what you said, but with the random things, you've always let me ramble. You've always let me ramble, so I'm always watching something crazy and I'll swing back to you and I'll ramble, or a dream will pop up and you ramble about that. I think humans are so unique that it takes time to really have somebody break your shell. And so with the rambling and the introducing new things to a relationship, it might not even be a thing of introducing new as it is discovering a deeper version of the person you know.
Wow.
So not knocking the introduce new things at all. That's solid. But I think with the random questions and the random conversations, swings right back to communication.
Absolutely.
So with that, it's just continue talking. I think with the content bored feeling, I think a lot of people see that as their relationship failing, and then it comes to anger, and so that brings up the fights, and then every either little thing or every it's seemingly little thing can trigger an argument or trigger unhappiness, and then your brain will just run off with the idea that you're unhappy, and suddenly other things bring you happiness, and then everything catches your you start to think of what is my life without this relationship, and I don't know, it's the grass is greener situation where it's like, oh my god, I could be out of this relationship and enjoying my time or whatever, and that's not always true. You have to really sit down and think about what your relationship really is like, where it may seem a bit boring, so then you get angry, you start being agitated, like, oh, this person always does this and always does that. I'm tired of it. And it's, the grass is greener where you water it. So when you take the time to really sit down and think about the person, the relationship, and yourself, and how they go together, and then just really consider things, suddenly it may not look so bad. You may not know the person as well as you thought you did, or this person might have changed over the course of the year and a half, 2 years, and so now you can get to know them more deeper, or again, and I think it's important. I think the one huge thing is knowing when to quit. Seeing this person as a regular person, as someone that you see every day and that you enjoy, and I think it's understanding that they're an individual and they're constantly changing, just like you might have changed over the 2 years. Come to bring that up in a conversation. Hey, did you learn a new skill? Did you read a new book? And so that's communication. That's introducing something new. And it may not be new as in suddenly there's something new. It might be new as in they don't know something from they whatever, don't know something from the past. And just really always talking to your person, because if you people are gonna be together any length of time, it's always gonna be that person there with you. So you just have to maybe in 70 years you can know this person completely and they can't change anymore. But never, I feel like, avoid the feeling of knowing that you know somebody for sure. Because cool, you know this person deeply and intricately and all this, but they can wake up tomorrow and change something. They might color their hair. They might cry this. Like you never know what could happen. Life is, every day that you're alive, something different can happen. And I think figuring that out and making sure that this person that you're with, that you really know them, that they really know you, because they might not be the one that has deeper stuff. You might be the one that has deeper stuff. And it's just enjoy your space. Is what I'm gonna say. Enjoy your space. Because if it's lasted a year and a half and it's not toxic, it's fighting over little things, not bad. But if there's degrading, if there's whatever, that whole different conversation. You know what I'm saying? But if it's just little things that are just like nitpicky, or because you miss the person, trust me, there comes a time when you start to miss a person and that might transition into anger somehow. And it's just like, wow, I miss this person, so I hate them, so it's just it's a constant getting to know your person,
absolutely,
getting to know yourself, and getting to know your relationship, and the dynamic. The dynamic can change, you might start off with the shy and the forward person, then in the year and a half have a switch where you might have gained confidence through or with this person, and suddenly now you're the one in the forward and they're the follower. Like every year in life, something can change. So I think introducing something new, communication, always try to have deep conversations every now and then. Current events, the world is always changing. Something new is always happening. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. I think that's a huge one, because it's two individuals coming together, and through that year or two, there might be new things that have circulated or passed by, or whatever, and with an open mind, that's when you can pick them down. You can take something from somewhere, introduce whatever to relationship, and what is that? The fourth point I've made. So yeah, open communication.
Look, guys, I'm never bored with him. He just continues to talk.
Yes. Ow, you know. But open communication, possibly introduce something new.
Yeah.
Deeper knowledge of your person, your person in your relationship. What was that one? Open mind.
Open mind.
Open mind. You know? Yeah.
No. I really appreciate that you said change, because I was actually gonna bring that up. I think it's funny that we talk about in anatomy or just health that your taste buds change every 7 years, right? I think, but we as people change every year, and we age, and the person that I was at like 19, I am not. The person that I was at 23 or 22, I'm not. Like, we are changing every single month, every single day, so the thing is that sometimes we get in that space of I kind of want to use complacency, and because I feel as though we kind of get used to something, and so we're like, and I think that you made a great point on believing that you know that person, and I want to say that you never actually know anybody. I am like constantly finding out new things about you every day, and I think that grows into that mindset of, oh, when people say, oh, I'm falling in love with them every single day, I think we kind of use that loosely, but genuinely that's what it feels like, because every time I find out something new, I'm like, oh, there's something new to love. And I think that's a huge thing of staying away from that mindset of, oh, you know this person and you've gotten used to them and you know what they're thinking. Yes, you may know their schedule, you may know things that they like, things that they enjoy, things that they don't like, but you don't know what their mindset is on another topic, like on this, like something, you just never know. And I think keeping that mindset of they're changing just as much as I am allows for new conversation, allows for open conversation, allows for keeping an open mind too. That's a great point, because once you say there's more to you that meets the eye, or there's more to you than I have found out in this few years, then there's so much more opportunity for conversation. I can be like, babe, you've never talked to me about this. What do you think about this? You know? And that is where I think we open up into more conversation, deeper conversation. And I think sometimes we have surface level conversation, even when we're first meeting, right? We're just like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite number? That 20 question stuff that everyone does. And I noticed that even in like my friendships, when I talk to my friends, they're like, oh, I kind of miss that like bubbly phase of getting to know someone again, you know? And I think that comes from the idea that you've stopped, or you've gotten to know everything about your partner. And when we correlate that to schedule, we correlate to that to like and dislike, and foods that you eat and foods that you don't. But there's things like when you watch anime, I'm like, oh, you like anime like that? Okay, now I know. And then there's other times where I watch like a certain anime and you start watching with me, or even a show, and I'm like, oh, you're into this? And you're like, yeah, you didn't know. And I'm like, oh, no. You know, so it's like we're always learning something about each other, but it's that mindset of, I don't know everything about you, so there's more to learn, that allows us to learn more. And I think that's a huge path of like that mindset of be open. You have to be open with your partner. You have to be open with yourself. And it is always stems from communication. Absolutely. It comes from that, even when you reach that phase of like, okay, babe, I think the bubble popped. And you talk to each other and you're like, okay, what do we do now? And that's when you like start going on crazy dates, start going skydiving or golfing. I mean, you don't have to go skydiving, but go bowling, go golfing, go do things that you've never done, and see your partner in a field that they've never been in, just as you know, just create new, not only conversations, but create new experiences so that you guys can talk about it. And then you have stuff to come back on. Hey, remember when we went golfing? Yeah, you were so bad, or you were so bad, or you were so good. Like, that's crazy. Creating new opportunities for new conversations is, I think, the absolute most best thing to do. And having that mindset and belief that doesn't matter how long I've been with you, I'm always learning something new about you, because you're changing every single day, just as I am changing every single day. And so I think that is the best course of action. I completely agree with you, babe. I respect everything you've told me right now. I completely agree with basically everything that you said, but thank you so much for sharing that with me.
It's my pleasure.
You're so cute. But that is all the time that we have for today. Hopefully you kind of gained something from this. If you are having conversation troubles, or maybe you have a friend that's having conversation troubles, send them this podcast. It's definitely a thing about communication, babe.
Yeah.
I think you definitely hit that on the head. But I appreciate you so much for being here and doing this with me. And just thank you, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you gained something from it. And we can't wait to see you in the next podcast. Bye.
Bye.